What's cracking? It's your homie Lil Mystery. You are now listening to the Emo Brown Podcast, the downest fool in Chula Vista since AC Slater, homie.
We're out of hand. We are out of hand with this
Mario
shit.
Lopez as your intro, bro.
No, Mario Lopez was on because he owes us a favor. So we had to come out.
But you ain't wrestling again?
No.
All right. That's not going to happen.
He boxes at the same, or he trained at the same facility I trained for boxing.
House of
He's a
boxing?
jujitsu guy. Our paths are going to cross, bro. It's inevitable now.
Gus can take him, though?
Gus can take him.
Okay.
Gus is definitely a better practitioner of the jujitsu art than Mario Lopez. But boxing, for all accounts that I've heard about jujitsu, for boxing and Mario Lopez,
He's a real deal.
bro. He
He's
gets
the real
he
deal,
gets
Holyfield.
down, man. I know he gets a lot of hate from the South Bay, but not from us here at Emo Brown. Look forward to having you on the podcast. There, Mr. Mario Lopez.
Huge fans.
Huge fool.
Of everything you do except for your baseball allegiances.
Listen here. Listen right now.
Okay.
Because right now we got something fucking special.
Oof.
We're getting close to Padre season. We're getting close to spring training. We're on the heels of probably my most historic fucking fandom season ever. 98 counts, but I was a wee tyke. I was like 16, 17 at the time, so I couldn't really get into it as much. Plus now, I'm in a position where I can buy season tickets.
No life. Well,
and
I
I'm
was
there.
16, so you had to be at least 30.
We age differently, apparently. Peruvian pyramid builders age a little bit differently than us northern
That's a
Mexicans.
number.
I've never been more excited to go into a season than I have now. My kids are more excited. They've never been excited for the Padres. We were drugged down to fucking Fan Fest. We had to go and wait in the massive lines. Oh, all worth it to me. You asked me, it was all amazing.
Yep.
Spring training, they want to go. I hate going to Arizona. Nothing in Arizona is good unless it's the fucking 8 freeway leaving Arizona. That's the only good thing I love about Arizona, fool. Food is horrible. It's just not a good place.
Wow.
But the kids really
This'll
want to.
bode well.
But the kids really want to go to spring training. So it's like, all right, we got to make it a point to see if we can get out there. Bottom line, I wanted to hear it from somebody who is involved, fucking straight in the eye of the storm.
Oof.
Today we have Mr. Jesse Agler, the lead play-by-play announcer for your San Diego Padres on the San Diego Padre flagship of the 97.3.
You mean the Incorporated?
Oof, the Incorporator.
I asked Ben this morning if it was okay if I said that.
Did you get a word?
he gave me the-
Did you get a word?
No, he didn't want us to go that far.
Jesse Agler, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, sir.
We are beyond stoked to have you on here, bro. Honestly,
Yeah.
man. You down here, you guys, I don't know if you guys know, because you guys, you're doing play-by-play, you're in a booth, you don't really see what's going on.
Yeah.
But in the South Bay, motherfuckers love you guys.
That is my sense. That's one of the good things about social media, right?
Yeah.
And you get to hear from people that maybe you're not going to cross paths with at the game or whatever. And anytime I'm down this way, even at FanFest the other day, man, people are so hyped up. It's not just you and your kids, right?
It's scary.
It's
scary how hype people are.
It's gonna be crazy.
It will be nuts.
There's gonna be
man.
like 40,000 people there every night.
The most impactful regular season game moment that I had last year was when Juan Soto and Brandon Drury came up and they were batting in the first inning. And fucking Brandon Drury is a grand slam in his first at bat.
First
First
pitch.
fucking pitch. A la Kevin Kuzminoff, bro. First pitch
Oh,
slam.
man, there's a throwback.
Yeah, first pitch slam as a Padre. It got so loud. My skin started crawling. Como se me puse chinito por la piel. It was bananas. I am happy my kids get to see this now because I didn't get to see any of this. I went through
Oh, man.
I went through Seth Smith outfielders.
We saw Eric Owen steal home.
We did see Eric going still, bro.
That
What's
was-
going on? Oh, look, and so we were at Fan Fest there, Jesse, and I told my kids that the ground crew was the relief pitching squad for the. And I said, go take a picture. Look at there. Which one's Josh Hader?
Pretty
That
funny.
guy right there.
Oh man.
It's funny because in a couple of years, you're gonna have kids who have never known bad Padre baseball.
Weird ass shit.
Yeah.
Like, talk about bizarro world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, I've only been here. This will be my 10th season. For the people who've grown up here, have lived here their entire lives, they've had a lot of bad Padre baseball.
Yeah.
More than good.
They're going to be kids. Because, like, how old are you when you really start knowing and what's going on, right? Like 8, 9,
Yeah.
maybe something like that. So in a couple of years, they're going to be kids who are like starting high school. They can't remember bad Padre baseball.
That's
hilarious.
It's sad for us because all we know is bad Padre baseball.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
Arqui Cianfranco, great name. You know, whatever. Those were my
Yeah.
teams. You know,
Rip
those
Roberts.
were.
Yeah.
Oh, they watch it.
Well,
Bib Roberts, legend, bro.
Yeah,
Eric
that's what I'm
Owens,
saying.
legends. I was all
O-Dog.
about the Especially when he didn't do his fucking gloves, bro. They just put his hands in there, looked like he was like you're mowing the lawn with those gloves.
How about the players that we used to get hyped for that we were sold were future All-Stars? Ruben Rivera.
Oh, the gem of the franchise, Chase Headley.
Yeah.
The jewel of the franchise.
Cool. I mean, to me, it's like such a different feeling knowing that now we have 4 guys that would be All-Stars on any team they're on.
What does that
We
do
have
for
them all
you in
together.
your job? What does that do for you and your day by day with the Padres?
Look, part of it doesn't change because my job is to do my job no matter what it looks like. But it's more fun, way more fun, 1,000 times more fun. It's also easier. People also think you're better at your job when they're better at their job. Let me tell you something. You know the whole like don't kill the messenger thing? People say I don't want to kill the messenger, but they'll kill the messenger. And so if you're broadcasting bad baseball, they're like, you know, I'm part of that. I get like grouped into that. Now I'm trying to make it entertaining. I'm trying to make it fun. I'm trying to make it whatever. But like when they're really good, people are like, man, you sound so good. I'm like, yeah, because they're hitting 6 home runs every day. Like
You sound the best, man.
yeah, like them being better makes people think more about us.
How did you get involved in commentary? Was this something you wanted to do as a wee lad? Is
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
That's all I've ever wanted.
Go
He
ahead.
posted a picture the other day of him from high school broadcasting games, talking about this is what I want to do with my life. Yes or no?
Yeah. Yeah, there's I mean, but forget high school. Like, I mean, yeah, I have a picture from the high school paper or from the local paper when I was in high school, but I'm not exaggerating when I say I was like 6, 7, 8 years
I
old.
saw that video.
When I started to become like, all right, I'm kind of into this. Like, I think this is the thing I want to do. And I loved playing baseball, but I knew, look, it wasn't going to happen, right? Like, not going to be a major leaguer, and that's okay. So I played as long as I could. And this was always kind of the thing that I had my eye on. And I can remember going to games as a kid. And like, I'd get down to the seats, like, you know, you're behind first base or something like that. And I would crane my neck and look up because I wanted to see the announcers.
Yeah.
Like, there weren't a lot of kids who were looking up to see the announcers when they went to the games. They wanted to see the third baseman, they wanted to see the right field or whatever. And I was like, man, that's what I got to do that. That's all I would think about. It's all I wanted to do. And so I pretty much, you know, like figured by the time I was in middle school, high school, all right, let's get some internships. Let's do whatever we can to try and get some experience. I went to college. I basically chose where I went to college based upon the opportunities that existed to broadcast games.
Built for this shit, my man. Jesus
As a student.
Christ.
But you know what's the craziest thing is? You talk to almost any Major League Baseball announcer, they have like a very similar story. Now we've had different paths, we've had different ways of getting there, but like most of them were like, yeah, this is what I've always wanted to do. Because it's not something you can do half-assed.
You cannot.
No.
Because you are on display every game. 162 games. Doesn't matter if you're at home or on the road. You are there. Your voice is what the Padre fans associate the Padre team with. We are very spoiled in San Diego currently. And actually always on the radio broadcast, whether it was Jerry Coleman and Ted Leitner, you know, like those
Rest in
guys,
peace.
that's my baseball history. That's my experience with Padre radio baseball. And I'd love to, before Mud and Danny O came on, like I would primarily just listen on the radio.
Yep.
Like whoever was on, I'm like, all right, not interested. Let's listen to this on the radio. San Diego, now we are very spoiled. I don't think people realize that most cities, most teams do not have a dynamic duo in TV broadcast. And then across the way, offsetted by a radio broadcast that's equally as good as them.
And look at the Spanish broadcast. Eduardo
Yeah.
Ortega, he's
El Compa Ortega, bro.
He's no slouch, man.
The best.
He's
the
no
best.
slouch.
He's gonna be a Hall of Famer real soon.
Is that
Has to be.
Awesome.
Has to be.
How did you end up in San Diego?
The guy that was running the team at the time, Mike D, was one of my old bosses in one of my last jobs. And it's kind of a funny story. So I worked for the Dolphins starting in 2010.
Okay.
And Mike was the Dolphin team president at the time. And he wasn't really that involved in my hiring because he was the team president, but he had to approve it. And so like finally I got this meeting with him and I had like a flu. This was pre-COVID. You could go places when you had the flu.
Yeah.
And it was like, they were like, hey, this is the only time he can meet. You know, it's been going on for weeks at this point, right? This is the only time he can meet. Can you be there? Yeah, I'll be there. So I popped some NyQuil, whatever. I don't know what planet I'm on when I get to his office.
You sure it was
That
NyQuil?
wasn't
Jesus
NyQuil,
Christ, bro.
Dayquil. Maybe that was the problem. It was daytime and I
It's
popped
Miami.
NyQuil.
It's Miami, bro.
Yeah.
You know what goes down in Miami.
Different pharmacia. And so I get into his office, and one of the first questions he asked me, he goes, what's your dream job?
Oof.
Now, mind you, I am interviewing for a job with an NFL team. I said, man, I want to be a baseball announcer. and like to his credit, he kind of rolled with it. He was like, oh yeah. I was like, look, I love football. I covered, right? I love football. Don't get me wrong, but like I'm a baseball like junkie. Like I love baseball. It's my favorite thing in the world. Like I'm answering your question truthfully. Like I would want to be a baseball announcer. So you fast forward 3 or 4 years, he ends up becoming the Padres team president. They had an opening here. And the call was basically like, hey, remember when you said you wanted to be a baseball announcer? I was like, yeah. He's like, what do you think of San Diego? I said, well, I've never been there, but I've heard only the very best things.
America's finest city, Caesar. I don't know if you're aware of this. Go ahead.
And,
I had heard that.
the number one ballpark too.
Number one ballpark.
Isn't that bananas?
Crazy.
When did we become number one in anything?
There's a man by the name of Peter Seidler. He helped usher things
Papa
in.
Pete, bro.
Oh, man.
Papa Pete, don't fuck around.
I want a Peter Seidler statue in every major city in San Diego. I really do.
Okay.
I might build one myself.
We had FanFest the other day, and I emceed the panel that he was on, and they started chanting his name when I introduced him.
How crazy is that?
Like
The owner.
Think about
Think
that.
about that shit.
You know how many sports fans hate their owners?
Mm-hmm.
Hate.
Oh, gosh.
I'm not saying they don't love them. I'm saying they actively hate them. And then all of a sudden, this guy's going to come out and they're going to
They're
chant.
chanting
They're
his
literally
name, bro.
Peter.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
George Steinbrenner used to get that treatment.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Steinbrenner, Jerry Jones. There's a few that are so revered.
But I almost feel like those are kind of like love and love to hate on those kinds of ownership.
Oh,
it's
for
because it's
sure.
big budget, big money, big city, big
flop.
everything. Big flop.
The Cowboys haven't been relevant since we were in middle school.
Go ahead, man. Get some.
I grew up-
Jesse
This is the content I'm here
Agler
for.
looking to get canceled today in Chula Vista.
I hate the Cowboys.
Fuck los Cowboys.
Oh, yeah. It makes me so happy not only that the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, but because it makes Cowboy fans miserable.
Oh man, I am not in tune with any football.
That's sports.
I'm not in
Big
tune with
guy.
any of it this year. Last 2-3 years.
So the Eagles are from Philadelphia.
Okay. How's that fan base?
They wear green.
How's
So
that
Invincible,
fan base?
the guy from New Kids on the Block, he made a movie about it.
Rocky
Check it
Balboa.
out.
No, not that one.
Close.
So when you touch down in San Diego for the first time, you're getting out, you get your luggage, you're getting in your rental car, you're driving to wherever your destination is. What are your thoughts? What are your hopes and your expectations when you come in here?
So they flew me out here. I'd never been here before. I'd been to LA and San Francisco, I think, were the only times I've been to California in my life.
Incomparable.
Crazy to think of now. Grew up in Florida, Miami area. Like, just you didn't come out here. Like, I came a couple times for work and that was it. And I remember we took a cab from the airport to the hotel downtown. And this is, 10, 11 o'clock at night, cross-country flight. So it's dark. We're driving out of the airport right by the harbor there. And I was like, okay, this is good. Yeah, that was it. Like they flew me out here to try and convince me to take this job. And like by the time we were probably still on the airport property, like right on harbor. And I was like, okay, we're good. Like I looked at my wife. I was like, thumbs up, thumbs up. That was it. I was like, I was sold. I mean, it was just the most magical. Like it was cold. It was like January, I think, of 2014. It was kind of cold out. And Miami, it never gets cold. I was like, this is awesome. Like
humid as fuck.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like, I was like, this is great. And then you get to the ballpark.
Oof.
And they basically let me out onto the field. They're like, hey, go walk around. And I was like, okay, yeah, we're good. We're good.
Damn, that's how that works?
Pretty much. That's how it went.
You have
there were
access to everything.
Of us. Yeah, they just said, hey, go
Jeez.
walk out. Check out the dugout. Yeah. I got a picture somewhere of being in the dugout that night.
What was the first game you called?
The first game I called in the regular season was in April of 14. I filled in for Ted. Andrew Kashner almost no-hit the Tigers.
I remember
Wow,
that
that
game.
was your first game?
I remember that game.
He told me afterwards, and I took him sincerely, and I still believe it to this day. He said he would have killed me with his bare hands had I broadcast a no-hitter in my first game while he was off visiting his kids. Now, you fast forward.
Uncle Teddy. Fucking Uncle Teddy.
Talk about you either love or hate him. In San Diego.
Hey, your San Diego Padres. My
Stop
San
that.
Diego Padres.
I saw him the other day. We had such a nice catch up. Although, and then you fast forward to 2021, and Joe Musgrove's no hitter.
Oof.
That was the 9th game of the season, I think,
Mhm.
of Ted's first year not doing it. In 40 years.
That's
Oh,
what I was gonna say.
And
It
I
was
like,
it was not destined to be for Theo Teddy, man. It was just not destined to be for him.
I remember I turned to Tony. We were doing that game remotely because it was still COVID-y, and I turned to Tony in the 7th inning. I was like, "Oh God, Ted!" I was like, "You gotta be kidding me!"
Shot him a text or what?
Yeah.
You shot him a text.
All right. He texted me right when the game was over.
Oh
And
man,
it was very nice.
How
it was
awesome
very
is
nice.
that?
But also, he still wanted to kill me.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Which I wouch wouldn't blame him.
Uncle Teddy's an intense dude,
You
man.
can take him
Yeah.
at his age now, right?
Oh yeah, I
still
don't know,
got a
man.
mean
He's
right cross,
strong,
bro.
man. He did. I know you're jujitsu. He did boxing or karate forever. Yeah, he did a lot of martial arts.
He's a stand-up guy. He's an old school, bro. He's an old school guy.
He's a big, strong man.
And I love that when you got here, you cut your teeth doing the social hour. And
Yeah,
you
for a
were
couple years,
director of content, right? You necessarily weren't labeled as
So I
play-by-play.
did my first 2 years was kind of a hybrid role, and they sort of said, "Hey, let's lay out a path so that you can kind of get introduced to the fan base and vice versa, I guess." And they didn't really have a digital content department at the time, which is crazy to think about in 2023. And this was 2014, and that was part of the job that I'd done with the Dolphins. So I'd also done the broadcasting. That was always my main goal. And so they said, all right, like run this department. We'll also have you do a couple of other things in terms of filling in on TV and radio, which I did. I actually did more TV than radio the first couple of years for Dick Enberg because he was working a fairly limited schedule at that point. And so, yeah, that was kind of how I cut my teeth here. Big Seth Smith year, as you alluded to earlier. And then in 2016, I slid in next to Teddy, which was really special, and got to do a bunch of years with him. And then
that was awesome.
And now with Tony. And I mean, it's living the dream. It really is.
Imagine being on there with Ted Leitner doing play-by-play, bro. Damn.
I tell people that was getting my PhD in baseball
No
broadcasting.
doubt. No
and in
doubt.
San Diego. I mean, he knows this town. He understands the fan base, what makes them tick, what doesn't, as well as anybody that I'd ever come across. And so to be able to sit next to him and kind of understand that, get all that information, sort of absorb it all, I think is like invaluable.
How much Bob Uecker isms are actually involved with radio play-by-play? Is there drinking in the box?
No.
Is there what's going on in there, man?
No. That's
you guys
like
all seem
hard
loose.
No. We're loose because you got to be. I don't think any major league announcer has been under the influence of alcohol on the air probably in 20 years.
No way.
But it happened.
What
It was
about these dudes that
definitely
get
a thing.
fired for saying dumb shit, man? Those guys are bananas.
That just comes
man.
natural.
That does come natural. Arenado with the blast. Who is it? What goes into daily planning to go on the air for every game that goes on at 7:05?
I do a lot. 6:40 now, thank goodness.
Oh, that's true. 6:40.
Yeah, so I mean, for a normal game, I start prepping really the night before, kind of like after the previous game, because there's always a freaking game in baseball. So I get home at night after a game. I kind of update some of my notes on my computer just while stuff is fresh in my head. I kind of like write down some key points that I want to get out there. And then in the morning, I wake up, get the kids ready, get them to school, do all my reading, make more notes, update some stats. I like to have like 80% of that kind of thing done before I get to the ballpark. So when I get to the ballpark, it's more like, all right, let me go down to the clubhouse. Let me go to the manager's office. Let me go to, press conference, media availability stuff. Let me talk to other announcers, kind of like absorb as much information as I can without having to worry about, doing notes and stats and that kind of thing. And then I'll read what the teams hand out from their media relations offices on a day-to-day basis. Some of your like crazier stats, are involved in that. Some of in the last 32 games, like that's not something I'm going to come up with on my own.
When he wears his jewelry out, he is 7 for 15 in the
all those,
games.
that's where those come from. That's where those come from. And then
those are the best. Those are the best.
And then away we go.
Yeah.
And then away we go. And it's just kind of a Groundhog Day thing a little bit all year long, but you're traveling and you're zigzagging the country and you're seeing all these cities and all these ballparks.
It's an overwhelming schedule, Jesse.
It is. It's crazy. It's crazy, but it's all I've ever wanted to do.
Do you have to train for this in any way? Do you have to prep yourself for the actual 162 game season? And now that we're the Padres of the 2020s postseason,
well into October and hopefully November. I mean, like I have found just from like a physical standpoint, it is hard to not put on weight during the season because you're just not eating great. You don't have as much time to exercise. So I try and go pretty hard with the eating and the exercise in the off season, just to like give a little buffer. And then once the season starts, you do what you can. I prioritize sleep in the season. I prioritize exercise in the off season. That's kind of how I look at it. Because
that's how we need to live our life. Season.
There you go.
All right, that's exactly how we need. There is no off season, so there'll never be any working out.
My headphones turned off for that segment. That was weird.
This weekend was FanFest.
Yeah.
FanFest to me has always been a desolate kind of event where no one used to go. I remember my wife and I were talking about it when we had our first son, Sonny. 10 years ago, we went down there and there was literally 4 people in line to take a picture with the swinging friar on home plate. Nothing.
You could
Nobody.
get whatever you wanted at the garage.
There was no problem on the garage sale lines. There was no line to go into the team store. There was zero wait anywhere. So for me to take a step back and go now, and people complain about, this. I was like, hey, man, believe me, I'll take waiting in this little shuffle 1 mile an hour line over nobody being here 10 years ago any fucking day.
Tell me what you were telling me the story about.
Yeah, I mean, I got down there. I got off the 5 at Imperial at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday for that.
You were already late.
I was late.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was like, I thought I was running on time. And then by the time I got to my parking space in that lot across from the home plate area, it was 8:45. 45 minutes to go. What is that? A mile?
Less, yeah.
On Imperial?
Yeah.
So and normally if I'm stuck in that kind of traffic, I'm not a happy guy. That's not who I am. I don't like being stuck in traffic. But that day I was just looking around and I was marveling at it. I was like, this is great. This is great. This is awesome. Like this is everything you just said. This is a new chapter for this team. The fact that this is a non-game event and traffic is backed all the way up to the 5.
Non-game event, fool. non-game event just to go hang
Before
out.
spring training.
Bro, just to go hang out. Look at that.
Oh my God.
Fuck, that's
Unbelievable,
ridiculous, man. I haven't seen a crowd like that in fucking Gallagher Square since Los Tucanes
That
played.
one
Fool.
right there, right, right
was
to your
unbelievable.
left. That's actually Steve's kid. He left him there.
I was like, I gotta go, man.
Yeah.
I gotta dip.
Did you
So
see-
that's like what, this is what percent of that crowd? This is
Jesus.
30%, 20% of the people who were there?
Oh man, yeah, 150,000 people came. 150, and apparently we only registered at 45,000 people.
So they
came.
gave out, I think they gave out like 150,000 tickets, but people could claim, and I think a lot of people showed up and were like, nah, I don't
Yeah,
think
there
so.
was a
But-
lot.
Which
There
is
was a
fine.
lot.
But yeah, I mean, 50,000 people spread out over the entire day. Padres did a great job. There were events in Gallagher Square. There were
Mhm.
events at
They
the
spread
upper
it
deck.
out. They spread
Right,
it out
yeah,
everywhere,
yeah.
man. It was awesome.
It
I
was
can't
really
wait for spring training, which are words that have never really come out of my mouth, man. I can't wait to go to Arizona and hang out in a 90-degree weather and, just hang out. No, now I really can. It's going to be a fun time going out there, watching the new players, watching the Machados, the Tatises and all this. It's just awesome. How excited do you get?
Very.
Oof.
I'm like a little kid.
Yeah.
And you know what's really scary and sad? Even in bad years, I still get super excited.
Because you're a
for spring
fan.
training.
You're a fan
I
of
am.
not only the team, but of what you do.
Yeah. So,
you're
like-
passionate about what you do.
This year, it's like I don't even know what to do. I'm like tapping the table, like let's go. Like a junkie.
How
I'm
does
a
that
baseball
change
junkie?
with the World Baseball Classic?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, so the World Baseball Classic means a few things, obviously. One, like, a lot of these guys aren't going to be around as much. So from a broadcasting standpoint, it's a little bit of air out of the balloon, right? Because, it's not going to be as much Manny as it would have been.
Mhm.
It's not going to be as much Darvish as it would have been. But, from the Padre perspective, like, that's fine. I know enough about our minor leaguers. There's enough interesting stuff there. The guys who are going to be playing instead. We'll be able to
Little
talk
Jackson
about that.
Merrill watch.
Right. When it sucks is Tuesday against the Royals. And the only two guys anyone's ever heard of on the Royals are not there because they're in the World Baseball Classic.
Oh,
And now it's
man.
like, all right, who are these guys? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know the AA shortstop for the
Like
Kansas
number
City
100,
Royals.
number 112.
Yeah.
I
Couldn't
don't
be
even have a
us, bro.
jersey.
Couldn't be us.
No.
No,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Once
yeah.
upon a time, it was
Yeah,
us.
no, that was us.
Bubba
Yeah,
Trout
not that
started in
long
left
ago.
field today.
Man.
Jeez.
We used to get
Well, look,
excited about that.
But that's the job, right?
Yeah.
You figure it out. And Tony and I will make it sing. And it'll be fun anyway. But it's just a little bit, different not having the star players around as much. Not that they're all going to be gone, and certainly they're not all going to be gone the whole time. But
Tatis is available to be in spring training. Am I correct? Or
Yeah.
all
He's
right,
not
okay,
allowed
cool.
to play in the WBC.
yeah, so
Yes.
he'll be a regular participant, I would
Mhm,
think,
mhm,
which
for
is
sure.
which is a nice
Get your
little
reps.
bonus. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Along the way, have you become a Padre fan?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long. People ask that all the time, right? Like, I didn't grow up a Dolphin fan. I grew up a Giants fan, hence my Cowboys hate.
Mm.
And you start working for a team, and it's an emotional investment. It's almost even deeper than just being a normal fan, because like the people, and you root for you want the people to do well. Like Ryan Tannehill was the Dolphins quarterback most of the time I was there, and he's had like an up and down career.
Sure.
But man, you forge this bond with those guys. Like when he went to Tennessee, I was like, all right, I'm caring about the Titans now, which I never did before.
All of a sudden, I'm a Tannenhill Titan fan.
Yeah, like because it was like, all right, this is a guy I have a relationship with. And so yeah, it's like it's a different thing than being a fan.
Yeah.
In some ways it's deeper, in some ways it's not as deep, because you can't get mad in the way a fan can get mad some of the times, right? Like because you work there and everything. But no, I mean it by days into the job, you start feeling things that you never knew you could feel for a team. And it only grows. And I think it's the same with the players. You know, I mean, like it doesn't matter if they grew up Padre fans or if they grew up here or they grew up in Florida or Texas or the Dominican, whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, once you put the uniform on, once you're in the building every day, you can't help but want nothing but like the ultimate success. And so yeah, it's intense. It's intense.
It's not hard to do it now.
Well, and
It's
the way
not
the
fucking
fans
hard to
come
do
out
it
now,
now.
man.
Yeah.
I mean, yesterday, Natasha and I sat there for 3 hours and watched the replay of Game 4 against the Dodgers.
Oof.
She was like, "Can we watch the game?" I'm like, "You want to just fast forward to the 7th inning?" She's like, "No, I want to watch the whole game." I'm like, "You're a braver kid than I
Wow.
ever was." Yeah.
So we were there in the rain, in
Yep.
the cold, in Gallagher Square. We sold our tickets, so we just had to like scrounge other tickets, so hang out in the back. So we were. It was raining. It was cold. It was muddy. It was horrible for the first 6 innings. It was bad. We're like, oh man, this is not going to happen today.
Just the lack of energy, the lack of just, yeah.
I wasn't
spark
able
that
to
was there.
listen to the broadcast, both on TV or radio. How was that for you guys in that box, man?
Tony and I were talking about it the other day, and it's goosebumps still when we think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, when Cronenworth got that base hit up the
Oof.
middle
Oh,
Oof.
to give him the lead, I've never heard that building louder.
Mhm.
I
when
mean,
he's rounding and his hands in the air and the entire dugout.
That flop of a slide by Soto at home, bro.
Yeah.
It looked like a Matt Holiday slide.
You mean the guy that never touched home plate?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Just that right there in the rain.
Good Matt
Everybody
Holiday
screaming,
story,
man.
by the way. If we'll do the sad times again. So he was at Padres spring training last year. His son, was like a top draft pick. And so he knew some of the Padre front office people. So he was hanging out. So they just ended up randomly next to Matt Holiday, like leaning against a chain link fence in Peoria. It's like 8 a.m. on a Tuesday, right? And so I was like, I've never met him. I'd just been introduced. It was just the two of us in that moment for whatever reason. And I go, you are aware, like, right, how everybody here feels about you, right? Like, I was like trying to think, like, what's the most diplomatic way I can have this conversation?
Nobody likes you,
Right.
Holiday.
I was like, I don't want to be a jerk. He's like, and he kind of smiled. And he's like, he's like, I don't go on Twitter often, but whenever I do, all of my mentions are Padre fans.
Mhm.
And he's like, you know what I want to say? He's like, why are you mad at me? I didn't make the call. Tim McClellan, the umpire,
I'm
made
aware
the
I
call.
didn't touch home plate, okay?
He didn't quite go that far and admit it, but it was like, that was essentially the implication. He's like, I didn't call myself safe. He's like, don't be mad. Like, it had nothing to do with me. I was there. Whatever. That's a fair point, by the way.
At that 2010, I don't know who I hated more, him or Nate Kading.
Hey, that's a toss-up, man.
Yeah.
I was at that Jets wild
playoff
card game
when he missed three
field goals
after
and an
missing
extra
one all
point.
regular season. I'm good. My therapist got me through this year and a happy place season.
We sat in a place apparently where it was nothing but Jet fans, bro. Nothing but Jet fans.
so took
anywhere
over
in the
this.
stadium.
Anywhere in the stadium. It was green as
Jack
fuck.
Murphy.
And we were just sitting there and we were getting berated, bro. And we're like, we're at a home playoff game and we're getting harassed.
And they talk funny too.
I did not like being a Charger fan, man. Now looking back, I'm like, oh man, that was a horrible relationship.
Do you feel like relieved that that's out of your life at this point?
Jesse, I haven't watched football in over 5 years, bro. I tried to watch.
Do you have relief, or is there a missing piece of you? A sadness?
I replace it with golf.
Okay.
I've replaced it with having one more meal. I've replaced it for doing. I didn't know there was so much
bike rides.
I didn't know there was so many things to do at 1 p.m. on a Sunday, 10 a.m. on a Sunday.
Broadcast?
There was so many other things available to do on a Sunday that I do not miss it at all. And it was weird because I was deep in love with football, deep in love with Rivers, Gates, LaDainian Tomlinson, the Burner Turner, Darren Sproles, like
Michael
Vincent
the Burner
Jackson,
Turner, man.
all those guys. I was all about it. But then as soon as they left, I was like, boom, all right, cool. I told the wife, he's like, that's what I'm capable of. I can turn it off just like that. I'm playing, my love.
You looked at me when you said that. I got scared.
I can turn it off just like that, but I never will, man.
I mean, one thing I admire about what you do is that you still incorporate your director of content title, man. You give people such a behind the scenes look of what it's like going into the booth, what it's like
fucking love it.
operating
Yes.
at every stadium, your hotel stays. Like, I think that's such a cool thing, man. Like,
I think it's a part of doing business now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's one thing to be the voice on the radio that people hear when they're stuck in traffic, but you want to connect more than that. I think especially here, right? It's like it's such a cool town in that it's not a big city. Like there's a lot of people, but it's not a big city, if that makes sense. Right? I don't have to tell you. And to sort of like try and do a little hand-to-hand combat almost with meeting people, getting to know people, giving them that kind of access. Like I think that's a significant thing to people in this community. It is a community with like a capital C. And often, when I'm going around the country and people are interviewing me and asking me, what's San Diego like? I use that word community more than I use the word city or more than I use the word town or anything like that, because that's what it feels like. It's weird and kind of different than anywhere I've ever lived or certainly different from where I grew up, where there really is a sense, and part of it, of course, is the Padres being good, but there is this sense of like everybody is in this, man. Like there is so much of the consciousness tied up in this team. There is so much like pride, especially I'm sure after the Chargers left, right?
Mhm.
Oh,
like
yeah.
there's so much, energy and so much of, I don't want to say self-worth because that probably overstates it, but like so much of how we feel about ourselves here is about, how this town comes off. And it is a sense of community. And so that ties into the social media stuff and trying to be as accessible as is reasonable. I'm here with you. Like I'm part of this. I'm not above it. I'm not off to the side of it. Like I'm in this with everybody. That's really how I try and broadcast. I think the best compliment, and you could say this easily about our TV broadcast too. I think it's the best compliment any announcer could ever get is that people come up to you and say, hey, when I listen to you, I feel like I'm hanging out with my friends. Like that's it. Like that
Engagement,
to
man.
me is like the ultimate thing. And so social media and silly Instagram stories or reels or whatever, like that's all an extension of that. as far as I'm concerned.
And it's very much needed. Gone are the days of the one layer, the one-dimensional broadcasting, and we're just going to commentate on the game today, 3 for 5 today, blah, blah, blah. No, man, we want to know more. Take us into the dugout. Take us into the clubhouse. Let us know. We have a rock star GM. You know, we want to know about him. We have a legitimate, top-notch owner. Yeah. We want to know about them.
Does he sleep? Does he actually sleep?
Not really.
Okay.
No. I mean, he stays up late working and he plays basketball like 5 in the morning.
On a sick one, man. Brother. Hey, that's on some saca la bolsita shit right there. AJ Preller.
He's more of a periconte.
Yeah, AJ Preller just seems like a madman. He just legitimately always has reminded me of like a Willy Wonka type, like always scheming, building in the background, figuring things out. It's amazing that we have that dynamic in San Diego. We've never had anything like that, bro.
Even on the stage at FanFest yesterday, I feel like the entire time he was so disengaged because he was like, what am I going to do next? Like he's like in the moment, but he's still.
He might have been on a call for all you know. Yeah,
you don't know with them. And I love that about Twitter. I love that about our social media is that anytime they see Preller out in the street on the phone, they're like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? Yeah. Who's gone? Who's gone? Fucking Kim is gone, bro. Grisham just got traded. Somebody's leaving.
When he acknowledged Padres Twitter, he did himself such a wonderful favor and disservice at the same time.
I don't think people realize that we have a legit front office. Because when the Chargers left, it could have easily gone one of two directions. You know, we were going to take ownership of San Diego. This is our town now. We're going to do everything possible to create the Padres as that franchise for the city. Or they could have opted not to, which I feel like, you know, or owners of the past would have gone that route.
They leaned really hard into the ballpark at first. You know, the team wasn't there yet, right? Yeah. It was, you could kind of sense, all right, maybe something's coming and, you know, we can get to where we want to go. But they leaned hard into the ballpark and this ownership and the previous one, including Ron Fowler as well, they put a ton of money into the ballpark. Not only to upgrade it, like the obvious stuff like the video board or the sound system, like that's something anybody can see. But they also, you know, like they're going to redo the floors every few years, like stuff that you wouldn't necessarily notice. And they say now, like their goal is to make it so that Petco never looks or feels like it's older than 5 years old. And the story I've told a lot of times to groups when I'm talking about this is like PNC in Pittsburgh, beautiful ballpark, right? Great ballpark, the rivers, the bridge, the Clemente Bridge, all of it. It's beautiful. I think that opened 3 years before Petco. It looks like it's 25 years older.
It's no love. Things age differently in Pittsburgh, just in case season.
Yeah, no, that too. But like they haven't put the kind of money into it, you know. And I think they're doing some stuff this year, but like they haven't done the upkeep, the boring upkeep. The stuff nobody wants to hear about.
That's why Brian Reynolds doesn't want to play there anymore. It was like, I don't want to play here, dog. What the fuck?
But like the Padres have put so much money into just keeping it feeling new and nice, even if it's now. I mean, it's 2004. That's a long time ago.
I mean, dude, we were season ticket holders like in the early 2000s, legitimately, man. When Brian Giles was my outfielder and we sit in the little porch where the foul pole is, right the section over. Porch. Yeah, well, we're right next to that little corner. We were sat in like the first section that was straight off. Man, we were excited to see the visiting team come and play. Yeah. I was excited to see Ken Griffey Jr. play when he was playing with the Reds. You know, I was like, oh, this is awesome. He was a big shit talker, bro. He just talked back at all the fans. I was like, all right, it's cool. I was excited about the other teams. Over the years, it's like it's been super quiet. Petco was not always, you know, singing all the small things in the rain, you know, on a rain delay. They weren't always just yelling in the decibel thing, get louder.
We weren't singing Chente when
it was not, bro. It was not always like that. And I tell people, it's like, yeah, enjoy this. This is fucking weird. This is awesome. Embrace it. Because you could hear people whisper. You could hear, it was like a Little League game. You could hear people say, you saw it. I was like, oh shit, how embarrassing.
I remember like back in the Jack Murphy days, you could get the kids membership. You guys remember for $25 and it was like 10 games and it came with like a hot dog.
Get it, bro. And that's like, worth its price of admission right there.
Right field or the upper deck behind home plate. And like, come on, man.
I mean, that's the wild thing about now, right? Is like they're capping season tickets because they want to make sure they can still do stuff like that.
Fucking Red Sox now, fool. There's a waiting list to buy season tickets to the Padres.
If I would have told you, just like, let's say 2018.
Yeah.
Don't even go back that far. 2018, I was like, hey, by the way, in 4 or 5 years, they're going to cap season tickets. There's going to be a wait list.
Yeah, that's bullshit, Jesse. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you're also going to have like 4 guys that could win the MVP this year.
Easily. Oh, my God.
That picture. Oh, my.
I want to know expectation versus reality, though. You know, like the expectation is that we are a playoff team, that we are a contender for the NL crown. We are a contender to be in the World Series and do some damage. What's the reality? As an insider, what is the reality?
No, those expectations are fair, but they also come with the caveat of any expectation for anything. It's like reality can get in the way. Stuff can happen, injuries. There's always going to be one weird, stupid thing that happens that you don't know. That was it last year.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you could have
That
never
was a deflating moment, right?
a little bit.
Right?
I mean, how about first day of spring training last year? I remember we were all media, right? We're all outside. They do the press conferences outside under the like roof thing there. They got picnic tables. And it was going to be the first day that Bob Melvin was going to address the media at spring training. And then the kind of word trickled out, be like, oh, AJ is going to talk first. And honestly, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, yeah, it makes sense. First day, like get some questions out of the way about the roster so that Melvin doesn't have to answer those. Let AJ do it. And AJ came out and he had just kind of like had his head down. He was like even more like calm looking than usual. And, you know, he mentioned the Tatis.
Well, rewind to the earlier
motorcycle.
that day, bro. Well, okay, the motorcycle.
That was the motorcycle.
yeah.
So that was the first day of
That
spring
was the
training
first,
last year.
yeah.
And it was like, oh, man. And you talk about air out of the balloon. It was like,
Oof.
all right, let's like get past this. And then,
No
you fast forward a
Tatis.
couple of months and you get the PED. So look, point being, you never know what's going to happen. But to say the team has World Series aspirations, expectations, I mean, yeah, of course. Of course. Like there's no reason to think anything less than that for this team. Now, does that mean it's going to happen?
Nope.
No, of course not.
Not at all.
Last year, nobody had the Phillies in the World Series. You know, at any point in the season, quite honestly, until the day it
Especially
happened.
at the All-Star break, man.
That's
People
it.
thought they were sellers.
Nobody had the Dodgers losing in the first round either.
Ooh.
Yeah, Dodgers didn't win a playoff
that
series
again.
last year.
Oh.
But I mean, you go
Yeah.
back the last few years. Nobody thought the Braves were going to win it
Nope,
the year they
nope,
did.
and they did it.
2020
Nationals.
doesn't count. Nationals
Nobody
in
thought the
19.
Nationals were going to do it.
No
And
way.
then- yeah.
No
Well,
way.
the
So I
Braves
mean,
without Acuna.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, when Acuna got hurt, if I said, hey, by
That's
the
what
way, they're
gave me
going to win it
motivation.
all.
It's like, okay, Acuna was
Yeah,
gone
yeah,
and
yeah.
the Braves did it.
Tatis
Oh, I
was
said
gone.
that.
Tatis is gone.
I said that so many times last year.
You're trying to bring
Just
sticking it into
remember,
the-
the defending World Series champions did this without their most dynamic and exciting player. So yeah, I mean, things happened. It's such a long season. It's such a long season. There's so many bad things that can happen. And pitching is always going to be probably the thing that leads it out there. But man, they're going to mash. They're going to score some runs. And it's going to be a show no matter what.
Dude, people talk about their JFK moment, of where they were when JFK and the assassination happened. For me,
JFK died?
I'm telling you, I hate to be the spoiler, but here it is. Titanic sinks. I remember when people started tweeting online, like, oh, Tatis is at the airport. And I was like, oh shit, he's coming back. He's going to go on an assignment. You know, I'm like, oh, and then they're like, no, something's off with him being at this airport. There hasn't been an announcement. There's no movement. And then somebody started leaking online. Oh, this dude just got popped for PEDs. Everybody jumped on that guy. Ah, fuck you. Padres Twitter did Padres Twitter things. And they just went all over this guy. No, you're
That's
lying
what they
about. Dude, and then Padres Twitter was right, dog.
Yeah.
Fucking Tatis. I remember I was driving home and I heard Tatis is now suspended for 80 games leading into the 2023 season. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Natasha
bro.
almost cried.
It was a gut punch.
I picked her up from school and I told her, what does this mean?
It was a gut punch describing to my
were-
kids about cheating, dog.
We were in Washington and Tony and I, there was no local TV that night. It was like an Apple TV game. And so Don
That's
and
right.
Mud were off. They weren't even there. And we were in DC in the worst broadcast booth in baseball, freaking above the birds in DC. You can't see anything on the field. And it was about 30 seconds before we went on
Gunshots
the
in the
air.
crowds and
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, 2 years ago. 30 seconds before we went on the air, Padre PR guy came in. He was like, hey, FYI. And at first he
Oh
told
my
me, and I was like, very funny. You know?
Good job, Playboy.
And
What?
then he like didn't like smile when I was like, yeah, very funny. I was like, oh my God, are you serious? And then like it came out officially. And then we went on the air like right then.
Oof.
And I was like, oh, so we talked about it. And I mean, Tony and I talked about it. If you went back and listened, I would say nonstop for the first 5-6 innings. And like, what else was there at that?
It was a major piece.
Yeah, it was like July or whatever.
Yeah.
August. I remember against the Nats, like
Yeah.
the game was kind of like what, So we just-
Secondary.
we talked about it, and people were tweeting questions, and you mentioned your kid, and like somebody said, hey, how would, what do I say to my son?
Yeah.
I was like my kids are little. I haven't had to have that kind of conversation with them yet. So Tony and I kind of kicked that around. I mean, we ran through the gambit of emotions, and it was in a weird way like a broadcast I'm very proud of, because we got no heads up. We didn't have any time to sort of like game plan how we were going to manage this. There was no distraction of television that night for like, people, go watch them. They'll tell you what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it was, people were tuned into us probably a little bit more than they
More
normally
than the
were.
norm, for sure.
And it was like, all right, let's navigate this together. And then, by the end of the long conversation, we were sort of at this place of like, all right, hey, this team's still really good. And, I'm sure there were some people who didn't want to hear that because they were pissed off and they were sad, and that's fine. But it was true. Like, and the team was really good, and it wasn't us trying to shine a dirty apple. It was us saying like, hey, let's go, man. Like, this is still a really, really good team, and they can do some special things. And they did.
It's going to be a tough year for him on the road.
Oof.
Couple years.
Couple years?
Few years.
Oh, shit. Is he built for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he can hang?
He'll be good.
Hey, he looked polished as shit. Like, he was ready to rock.
Look, man, he is a great kid. And I understand, like, that might not sound the way it did a couple of years ago at this point to people. I can't tell you, my interactions with him have been extraordinarily positive over the years in authentic ways. Not like some guys, they're like talking to somebody and they're like pretending. He's in his heart, he is a good kid. And it's going to be hard for him, but he don't lack confidence. I can tell you that. And this whole thing is not going to wreck his confidence. Is he going to be a little more humble or different? Perhaps. Sure. I mean, I could see this affecting just sort of his overall state of being. But he knows how good he is. And I think he is fully aware of what it's going to be like on the road, not just this year. And maybe sometimes at home. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think it'll be pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's probably not going to be 100% good.
I think gone are the days of Dodger Blue taking over Petco. I think gone are the days of most teams coming there and taking over Petco.
The playoffs were a big barometer for that, man.
Oh,
I know people were concerned about, like, oh, wow, it's probably going to be 50-50. And
No.
That was 90-10 at best.
I was saying I think there are probably Padres fans who are going to be feel jilted. And
you think so?
Not many, but some.
Coach Quintero fans probably listen as well. Those seem to be like the
sports radio.
Those seem to be like the guys that would be talking crap the most. Man, okay, some opinion pieces on you now, right?
All right.
Manny Machado opts out, gets re-signed, opts out, signs somewhere else.
I have a hard time imagining him not being here.
Notice I said opts out on both of them, though.
Yeah.
I think that's happening.
Yeah, I can't imagine a scenario in which he just sticks with the remainder of his contract. So whether that means they get something worked out now or sometime during this season or immediately after the season, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, they're going to do what they have to keep him. I mean, unless Steve Cohen, comes down with like some $1 billion offer and Manny really wants to play there, and I don't expect that to be the case.
Yeah.
That would be the kind of thing that could maybe throw it off. But I think save something crazy like that happening, unless again he really wants to be a Yankee or he really wants to be a Met or he really wants to be a Marlin. I don't know. And if not for something like that, then yeah, he'll be here. They'll work it out. They got.
He just seems to love everything about this and this team.
He's invested, man. He's invested,
yes. And especially like. Not to sound whatever, but if they don't win it all this year, like he's gonna have a feeling of unfinished business.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So you're voting for them not winning this year.
That's not what I said.
Likelihood that
Careful
this
with
four-headed monster being together next season.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 Will Soto get an extension, you think? And does it come at the cost of getting somebody else signed?
I mean,
how much money does our team fucking have?
Computer question. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
how much money does this squad have?
We talk about my deal too if we're doing that. I mean,
throw me in the mix. Huh?
As long as we're doing this and just giving it away.
You heard it here first. Jesse's opting out of his deal.
Oh shit! Dodger commentator. Unbelievable.
Like Soto has 2 more years, 23 and 24. I can't imagine a scenario in which he's not on the team starting 24. Can't imagine.
I love when these players get asked these questions, they all have a little smirk on their face. Almost as if they already know what this game is going to lead to. They know where they're going. They know what their offers are. They know what they're going to do. I'm sure they've had conversations in passing like,
well, they're also smirking because we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, I'd smirk too. Ask me whatever you want.
What did Soto say? Something like, "Hey, I'm here for 2 more years, and I'm loving the year that I was here already, and I look forward to
the
this
man turned down. What was it? Did he turn down
440 million?
But did he turn down the money, or did he turn down Washington D.C.?
Regardless,
it doesn't matter. There was still 440 million attached.
Like rich people like to do they buy boats or cars or whatever to show off. Hey, that guy can walk into a room and be like, "Hey, I turned down $440 million.
My luxury is ordering my burrito with guacamole there, buddy. All right, so I'm in a different ball game than that.
By the way, you guys had the podcast earlier with Jorge from Lolita's. Like, I was getting starving.
Did you want a burrito? How rude of Caesar not to offer you anything.
Fine. Yeah.
Who is your favorite interview? Who is your favorite player to interact with?
Oh, that's an interesting question. We got some good ones, which is nice. Jake Cronenworth is probably the guy that
Seems
I
like
lean
a sweet
on.
fella.
He is a sweet fella. But he's the guy I lean on the most to talk about these rule changes that are coming this year in MLB. Like he's a really good guy to bounce stuff off of because he's super thoughtful, smart. Like
he seems
really
in tune with the actual game.
Very much so. So he's a really good guy. So if I don't want to just throw my opinion on something out there without checking with somebody, he's probably the guy I'm checking with. So that would be one. But Manny's fun to talk to. Trent Grisham's got an interesting personality. Like it feels like I think it took me like almost COVID also threw this stuff off because we didn't get to access to them as much as we used to before that. Now it's kind of back to normal, but it took some time to like warm up with Trent Grisham. Now I love like talking to him. Like he's funny, he's dry, funny. Like
he's got that Texas style.
Yes,
I mean, obviously he's from Texas, but you just see him as like, oh man, this dude
Texas.
is fucking cowboy as fuck.
Yeah,
dude, I love that.
Yeah,
he really is.
He is for sure. I loved talking to Will Myers when he was here. Just
El Pollo.
El Gallo.
El Gallo.
Did you call him El Pollo?
Yeah,
You called him a chicken.
There's a rooster on the run. I dropped that on Mud last year. One way he I don't know, he hustled into second base on a double. I was doing a TV game, I think, and Mud was going, El Gallo, El Gallo. And I was like,
Piso mojado.
I was like, there's a rooster on the run, you know. But Will was a wonderful, wonderful guy to talk to. Joe Musgrove is as solid of a human being as you could ever imagine. He's a great guy to speak to. I can go on and on. I try and talk to as many.
This team is
as
just
I
built
can.
like that.
They're cool guys. I got to get to know Soto a little bit better. He's really, you forget how young he is because he looks like a grown man.
He looks like a grown ass man.
But it's like, what is he, 24? Like, it's crazy.
That's so insane.
I love that his mom goes to the games. I love that his mom's just there.
I've seen his parents like
Yeah.
all over. Yeah.
That's
I rode an
awesome,
elevator
man.
with them in a
Oh,
hotel in Miami.
man.
They were super nice.
Dude, look at that.
Look at
23-year-old turning down 400 plus million contracts.
Almost
doing
half-
his thing, bro.
Almost $500 million at that age to be like
Half
no,
our age, fool. Fuck half a billion. Half our age.
Darvish,
Look,
by the
don't
way.
drag me into your twilight.
man.
This is the game, I believe, when the dragon up the freeway became a thing. Peter Seidler was doing an interview on ESPN. This was the Sunday night game, and he mentioned the dragon. So that's where we came up with slaying the dragon was from this game. Darvish is fascinating as a human being. I have to do better about talking to him. It's a little bit too brief. We've done some social media stuff. I did like a fan Zoom with him when he first got here. He is really funny. He is really smart. He obviously knows a ton about baseball. So he's another guy that's really cool to talk to.
That's our team, man.
Crazy.
That's our
right?
team. Juan Soto's our outfielder. You Darvish is on the mound. You know, we got Manny Machado at third. We got Xander Bogaerts playing wherever the fuck he's going to play. He's going to play somewhere in the end. He's going to be shortstop for
I
sure.
think so, yeah.
Tatis.
Dude, Tatis, Kim, Jesus Lord. Never in my dreams
How many
did I
All-Stars
imagine
this year?
all of them. Except our catcher.
Nah, he'll be
What's
all right.
Yeah.
Luis Campusano?
Yeah, he's going to get some
Osanola?
run. Yeah, it'll be interesting, right? See how they divvy up the
I think this is his year. I think this is his year to get a legit opportunity to be in the spotlight. But I mean, he's still young too. Oh man.
You have to
Well, I feel
remember, I think, that the catching situation is going to be dictated to a large extent by the pitcher's comfort with those guys.
Mhm. Who gelled with Alfaro last year that actually played the most of the year and then he got hurt and really kind of tapered off and they didn't really play him that much?
Wasn't it Manea that was?
Was it Sean Manea?
Manaya and
Yeah,
Alfaro,
sorry.
maybe, it's funny because they did have some consistency with that sort of stuff. Musgrove and Campusano worked together down the stretch a little bit in a really nice way. And Joe, and I mean, this tells you everything you need to know about Joe. He was like going out of his way to pump Campusano up, like in the media.
Yes.
And he was saying, hey, he's been sitting next to me and learning with me
He's a
and
team
like
player.
practicing all that.
He's a
so
fucking
good.
team
Big time.
player, man.
He's the kind of leader very few starting pitchers can be.
And he
Born
said,
and
fuck
bred.
LA. And he said, fuck LA on a stream, dude. Oh, do you remember that when he was getting interviewed for, what was it, for the Astros post-World
Yeah.
Series victory?
Yeah.
And somebody was on his Instagram live and they were just kind of like going, oh, the Dodgers this. And he's like, fuck the Dodgers. Like, oh, shit. Sign this man to San Diego lifetime
And they
deals,
did.
please.
You know,
Oh,
born and
man.
bred in East County, like our friend Eli here.
How often do you encounter weenie interviews, weenie players that you leave with like a sour taste in your mouth? Is that common necessarily with opposing teams? I know our team now is built differently.
Here's
but
what I would say. I mean, most teams are like any other office. You're going to have a little bit of everything, right? I mean, so yeah, I mean, so much of it is based on your relationships. And I try very hard to have a respectful, professional relationship with these guys. I'm not going for beers with them or anything like that, right? Like, but they see enough of you, you see enough of them. You try and, for me, I'm honestly like I'm a super introvert, so I'm a little awkward. I'm not like the best at like developing relationships, so it's kind of a slow burn for me. Then all right, after we see enough of each other, a little small talk. All right, now let's expand the conversation a little bit. Let me bounce a couple of things off you. That's the way I do it, and I think they understand as time goes on too, the amount of work that I put into them. and trying to make them sound good, and the seriousness with which I take my job, I think, is appreciated by most of them, because they're like, all right, like this guy's not just goofing around and hanging out trying to
He's professional.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what they want. And then
You grind the way they grind.
that's it, not physically, but I'm there with them and everything like that. And then, I mean, parents,
That would be awesome.
parents, wives, they all listen, and so you keep that in the back of your head. You're not
Yeah.
broadcasting for them. You're not like, you're going to have to say bad things sometimes like that. That's the reality of the job. But
That must be tough.
it's part of the job. And most of the guys realize that.
You fucked up. I'm not speaking out. You
Look,
fucked up.
When a guy's 0 for his last 19,
Yeah.
he's 0 for his last 19.
man.
Like whether I
You can't
say it or
sugarcoat
not,
that, yeah.
he's 0 for his last 19. I mean, it happens and that's okay. And that's baseball. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm sure, mom, dad, girlfriend, wife might be like, oh, I heard so-and-so
Sometimes
say.
both.
Yeah. And they get it and you can get something. But I mean, I haven't had anything direct with the Padres in any serious way with that kind of thing. I mean, it's mutual respect. That's what you try and do. Never personal. That's like the big thing.
That's awesome, man. Again, we're ever since our Channel 4 days, we've been so blessed with.
Yeah, I miss the Channel 4 days, man.
Man, I mean, well, that's
I miss the social hour.
when we talked
I miss
about
all those things. Bring all of them shits back.
how we met. It's when I was still at Mike Hess and we got into the ballpark and we had Bob Chandler on and Jesse on. I was back when Blooper was still around. And
Blooper.
Yeah. So yeah, man, and like I look back on it. Look at it. Look at
that young buck right
Wow.
there.
Young
Look at that
rising
guy
all
right there.
star.
Fifth grade morning announcements.
I used to do the similar thing for the crossing of the border in TJ. Like I would give updates. I'd go in front of the fucking TV like a weenie. Precisamente se encuentran 15 carriles abiertos con 4 carros por... Bro, I was weird. I had a spiral notebook and I would make my own box score and write everyone's and keep score and and turn the volume down and be now batting Marvell Wynn hit it into a ground the double play action in the 3rd inning. I was a weird fucking kid, bro.
I showed Natasha the other day. She was so confused because I saved. Remember how the Padres, when they sold you the programs, they used to come with a scorecard, and I've kept the one where Gwynn went 5 for 5. I kept the one where Greg Vaughn and Cam Nitty went back to back. I kept the one where Cam Nitty hit from both sides of the plate. And Natasha was like, "But why?" And I'm like, "Well, it doesn't make sense to you now, and you don't appreciate it. But one of these days, you'll see just how special it is, like to get this involved with the game. And if not, then I'll put you up for adoption. I'll get high dollar for that kid. She's a cute kid. I'll get high dollar for that. Yeah,
man.
The buy it now price on eBay,
Ooh,
spectacular,
bro. Mexican, well-spoken young lady.
Yeah, that's it, bro.
Cream of the crop, bro.
Yeah, man. Angelina Jolie will be calling him. Man.
Expectations for yourself as a Padre fan and the announcer before we wrap this up. What do you want from this team this year? And are we ready for what you want? Because we saw Fan Fest and people losing their shit.
They're ready for everybody's ready for everything, man. The machine is primed.
Oh.
It is primed.
This town is gonna fucking
Dude, just
explode,
goosebumps,
man.
goosebumps.
Look,
Ugh.
I don't expect that a regular season game can be like Game 4 against the Dodgers in the rain, but it's going to get way closer than it should on a regular basis.
I mean, he was.
There's going to
talking
be
about
40,000 people in there every
Regular on
single
a Wednesday,
night.
fool.
On a Wednesday
On a
night.
fucking Wednesday
Against
day.
Colorado.
Oh,
Remember
man.
going when it was 7,000
The
fans
team,
some nights?
the jewel of the
7,000.
West. Apparently, Colorado is doing it best way, building their franchise than any
Yeah.
other team in the NL West. Give me a break. I remember being worse than the Rockies, man. Oh, that'll never happen again. What do you got for
Great
Mr. Agler before we let him loose?
No, I mean, I think
No.
No.
you gave me all
it's
the
fine.
goosebumps I needed, and yeah, man, I'm just excited, man, and I'm excited to follow along with the way that you showcase your job, you showcase your experiences, and I love how connected to the city you become, and
How could you not? It's just the best.
just being a North County guy, it's different.
What do you do when you're not broadcasting the Padres? Is there an off-season regimen for you? Like maybe, I don't know, college games, any other sports games?
Yeah. So before COVID, I was doing some NFL, some college football.
Hey, COVID fucked everything
some
up for
college
everyone.
basketball. Yeah, but then we also had a second kid.
Oh, there you go.
So
Wait till you have 3.
yeah, no, not having it. So after that, it was like kind of leaving to go do a football game with like 2 little kids. It was like, all right, I think we'll chill here. And so yeah, it's just catching up with the family, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, Padre events, that kind of thing. But yeah, just kind of rest, recover, get ready to go, and then the real fun begins.
Is this the dream job right now?
Yes,
Do you have the
yes.
dream job that you've always wanted?
Absolutely.
Oof.
Yeah.
Anybody can lure you away from the Padres?
No, I
No?
don't think so.
No?
I tell people like I am here until they get sick of me.
Yeah. I don't think that's happening, man.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
man,
You
I
never
don't
know,
think
but
that's
I hope
happening.
not. Yeah, I hope not.
Not the way you work. I mean, with you, Tony, and
Oh man,
look at the people we have here.
yeah,
It's
we're
a
fucking
joke,
lucky.
right?
We're extremely lucky. We've went through some thin years on the field, but never in the booth, never with the broadcast. I mean, my pop still listens to it on the radio.
Yeah.
You know, like not watching it on TV, not watching it on TV and turning down the TV and listening on the radio. Just in the yard, just simply listening to it on the radio. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dog. That's awesome.
Baseball's
you know?
the best for that.
It is.
Isn't it? Yeah.
You can't do soccer like that. I've tried. You just can't do soccer. I need to watch it.
If you want to go to sleep, you can.
Oh, look at you.
Soccer on the radio? Come on, bro.
You, bro.
It will
Look
put me
at
to
you.
sleep,
The World
man.
Cup just passed. A little
I'm sorry.
respect.
Tottenham just beat City. You're welcome.
A little respect, brother.
My team's in the top 4 of the table.
Minus number 3, ho. What the fuck is wrong with you?
My team just beat number 1.
Oh, shit. Wait a second. Somebody just threw their hat into the EPL
You know, they
mix.
Yeah, Everton, man.
There's nothing wrong with
Trying
Everton.
not to get relegated.
When
Very
nobody wants,
much on the brink of
I feel
that.
like Everton is the default fucking team for all Americans who don't have a team in the EPL.
It
It's
didn't
just
used to be, by the way. I started doing this, and my buddy Matt and I, it must have been after, like, was there a World Cup in 06?
No. It was 8, 12, 16, 20, and 20 now.
Well,
What did we do? No, maybe there was. Fuck, my math is off.
Maybe. It was around then. Around then. So we got like super into the World Cup that year. We'd never been soccer fans before. And we're like, all right, we'll be Premier League fans. All right. So we were like, what team are we going to like? So we crossed off because we're not front running jerks.
Boom.
We crossed off.
Give him a look. Give him a look.
We crossed off the big 4.
sir, he's looking at you.
And then we were like, kind of researched everybody else. And Tim Howard was the Everton
Mhm.
goalkeeper, the American guy. We're like, all right,
Yeah,
sure, why
yeah.
not?
I'm in.
So we jumped in on that. And then like it became a thing like as time went on. But like we didn't know anybody else who cared about Everton at that point. And watching the games was near impossible. It was like weird channels. And
Yeah.
like now people don't maybe realize like if you became a soccer fan the last 10 years or so,
Yeah.
like it was not easy finding
you have
those
access
games.
to everything. You have
Yeah.
access to Division
Yeah.
5 English
Yeah.
League games, man.
There's a documentary about Wrexham, for God's sake. You know, like
That's insane.
yeah.
Beanchy Ryan Reynolds.
It's
Beanchy
insane.
Ryan
I mean,
Reynolds,
look
bro.
at one of the most anticipated premiere shows was Ted Lasso. Who would have thought
Yeah.
that a
Yeah.
show about
Yeah.
a second league team would be that popular?
Wait till Americans catch on real well, bro. We're ready. We're ready, man.
Now if they get some guys to actually play.
Bringing back Gio Reyna. Oh, dog.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah,
Good,
that's
fool.
Let's bring back
That's a
compost.
stud. That's a fucking stud. Jesse Agler, fucking legend, bro.
Thanks for
Fucking
having me,
legend,
guys.
bro.
This is cool.
No, man. Thank you for coming down all the way to the bowels of the South Bay.
No, I love it down here.
Yeah. How often do you
Yeah.
come down here?
Pretty good. Yeah, I got a buddy kind of south of the ballpark. So we hang out down there sometimes. And we lived downtown for a while, so we would do stuff down here. It's just get the sea air. I noticed
Yeah.
when I got out of the car. I was like, oh, I
Mhm.
smell the ocean.
Smell
That's
that
the
salt.
He
That's
was
good. That's good
very
for the soul.
complimentary of our setup. Thank you.
This is
Casas
very
de God.
sweet. Yeah, this is
Nice.
very sweet.
Look
I
at
got
us.
Dave Marcus needs to
You
learn
ever
a thing or two.
you ever want to go to a Killers concert? That's your guy right there.
Good to know.
Front row tickets.
We don't know what the hell we're doing down here, but
Nah, it's
we're
cool.
we're figuring it out as we go. And
Yeah.
people seem to fucking want to come and hang out with us.
It's awesome. Good job.
Thank you.
Congrats.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the voice of your San Diego Padres on the
Yes.
flagship 97.3, Jesse Agler. Hell yeah.